Hey, what's up, guys? It's Aaron, 2 Minute Tech. How's it going? Hopefully the stream looks pretty good. I think first time using OBS here, using the cam link from Elgato as well. So hopefully, my internet speed holds up and I'm not too loud. If you guys are having any crazy audio issues, anything like that, just let me know down in the comments. Yeah. I know we got a few folks in the house. I know I got Lover of Tech in. Benjamin, thanks so much for helping out with me kind of understanding how to make my Canon SL2 work properly with the stream. A little bit of oddities there as far as making sure that I've got the right settings, so hopefully everything looks good. Can't do any autofocus, so I had to shut that off, and Ben kind of tipped me off to all that. So thanks so much, Ben. Otherwise, I would be pretty much freaking out. So Benji, right now I'm using my Canon Rebel SL2. So same camera I always use. 24mm lens, just ran through the mini HDMI cable to my cam link straight into my computer here, running just your regular OBS software. So Scott, what's going on, man? Thanks for jumping in, buddy. Yeah, so Zach, what I was using with OBS here is I kind of created different scenes in the software. So I was able to kind of put up a graphic as well as then drop in whatever music I wanted to do, put that on a loop, using music from Epidemic Sounds, which I know a lot of us kind of out there are using right now. So making sure we don't get any of those content strikes. So works pretty good. Benji Cam Link I think is about $112 on Amazon right now, so overall not a bad price. So shout out to my family for actually going to get ice cream so I could do the live stream. So thanks, honey, I love you. And then also just kind of heads up, we are currently out of air conditioning, so I've got someone coming out to fix that. So if you see any sweat or anything like that, it's pretty gross down here, so a little bit swampy, but outside of that, yeah, guys, I will jump in just kind of starting with the Q&A. Thanks to everyone that submitted on Twitter looking at the Ask2MT or 2Minute Tech hashtag. So I got a lot of questions coming in from there, as well as a lot of questions coming from the chat here as well. I think the OBS on here, Ben, was stuck at 24 or 30. I'm not sure. Hopefully it's not too choppy. It's saying that I need to check the resolution because it's only coming in at 960 at 540. I think that's more a limitation of my Wi-Fi upload speed. So hopefully it's looking crisp enough for everybody out there. And if not, let me know. I'll try and figure out something for the next stream. But yeah, just jumping in to some of the questions from Twitter. So video at 480p. Thanks, Benji. Yeah, I'm hopefully the internet here will kick up, and in the meantime, it's not too choppy. They always say content over quality, so hopefully that holds up today. So thanks, guys. So kind of starting, again with the Twitter questions here, I set everything up to come through with that Ask 2Minute Tech or Ask 2MT hashtag, and I haven't really looked through a lot of the questions. So hopefully, my answers here are acceptable and not too off the cuff here and not too crazy, but. Yeah, so starting off, Get Good Reviews asks, Aaron, how much time do you take to produce your videos? Scripting, shooting, editing, and how do you manage your time for YouTube and time outside of YouTube? So thanks so much, Get Good. That's a really good question. I pretty much try to structure my time and my day around being with my family. So for me, that means that I usually wake up around 6 a.m. since the family gets up around 8. I usually go to bed around midnight, so I'm usually crushing about 6 hours of sleep. And I try to do as much YouTube work as possible when, my family's not awake. Now, I don't do my recording for my voiceover, like A-roll stuff, when they're asleep, because that would be a little bit rude. But overall, I'll usually try to shoot 4 or 5 videos all together at once of the A-roll where I'm standing here talking to the camera, so that I can kind of set all that up and be able to edit that throughout the week. So I'll do a lot of editing in the morning when the family's asleep. I'll do a lot of editing when I'm at lunch at work. And then usually when my wife's putting the kids to bed, I'll get a little bit more editing in as well. So try to structure as much of my time with YouTube so that it doesn't impede with the time outside of YouTube. So realistically, aside from occasionally me making some really odd, weird noises, which I know Steve from Evanos, I've got a Q&A shout out to him. My family was very interested as to what I was doing in the basement when I was doing my Ask Steve question for him. So thank you, Get Good. Hopefully that answers your question pretty well. So Let's see. Zach Talk Tech in the chat asking, is it a wired or wireless connection for OBS or for my camera? It's actually a wired connection. So just coming out of my SL2, there's a mini HDMI output ran through a cable, just a mini HDMI that you can pick up at Best Buy or kind of your local electronics store. Ran directly into the cam link. The cam link, basically the way that's set up, you can kind of see maybe here, but that does just regular USB-A with HDMI on one end. So overall, it's a pretty awesome piece of tech to be able to stream with a pretty good quality image. Obviously, internet permitting as far as my upload speeds, but really pretty solid piece of tech from Elgato. Benji's asking in the chat, what computer am I using? I am currently using the current version of MacBook Pro, just kind of the entry-level $1299 here in the US with the two USB-C ports on the side there. So through that, I've got the cam link plugged into one dongle, and the actually kind of additionally with this particular camera, with this setup, you can't actually capture audio from the camera to run through the HDMI. The camera doesn't support it, so I actually have to use a separate audio source. So currently right now I actually have a Focusrite Scarlett 2i2. And then I have that ran through a microphone, which the one I'm using here, I believe, is from Sennheiser, an E935, I think, to pick up the audio. So it's a little bit out of frame, kind of right here. Can't see it, hopefully, but that's kind of how I have my audio set up. So hopefully that answers. And Benji, it's not hooked up to a monitor. I can actually see in OBS. If I look down, I can see what my screen looks like and kind of see what my framing and everything is set up like. Works really well. And Viper, what's going on, man, with the keyboard of doom? I've got no keyboard issues on this, so I keep it super clean. Hopefully everything works out, right? Next question from the Twitter chat. Scott Sattler, I know you're on. Thanks, Scott, for joining, bud. Question from Scott is, hey, Aaron, now that I've shot several videos with my Rebel SL2, am I still happy with the purchase, or do I crave a different camera? Scott, that's an awesome question. I love my SL2. I know a lot of people are kind of on the fence about this particular camera. It is a crop sensor DSLR, but really comparing it to the 70D or the 77D or even the 80D, the 80D has better bitrate output for recording video with, but overall, like, I mean, you guys be the judge. I think I get a lot of comments on people liking the way that my footage looks. I like the way it looks, and ultimately, I think that's what matters. Realistically, the reason why I went with this camera is because I kind of figured if I went with a lower body, I could still spend a little bit of money as I go on lenses, and then those lenses, being Canon lenses, would transition into almost any camera in the line moving up. So I was kind of giving myself a little bit of a future proofing by going with the SL2. Do I crave a different camera? I mean, sure, I would love to get into like that Blackmagic camera that just dropped, or you know, even some of the Sony stuff on the high end looks really good as well. And then ultimately, I'd really like to get into some of the really high end Canon stuff down the road. But as of right now, the SL2 I think is getting it done. Really have enjoyed the camera so far, especially for being my first DSLR. Pretty good entry level stuff and features from here, as well as being able to get into some of the higher features as well. So thanks so much, Scott. Appreciate the question. Yeah, thank you. Benji's saying the audio is crispy. I'm glad to hear that. I was really nervous about that, so I don't have any monitoring. You know, you'll see I don't have any headphones or AirPods or anything like that, so glad that it's sounding good for you guys. Thank you. Awesome. Going down the rest of the Twitter chat here. Next question up was from Mr. West at official Mr. West. Guys, I'm sure as we go here as well, I know Get Good Reviews, you've got an awesome YouTube channel. Obviously, Mr. West here, a fantastic YouTuber. If you guys haven't checked them out, definitely go check them out. I'm pretty sure most of the folks that are on this chat here, though, we're all kind of part of the same community. So, but if for some reason you haven't checked these guys out on YouTube, definitely go check out their channels and give them a sub. So, Mr. West asks, do I think that I could review a phone in 2 minutes, and given the chance, would the challenge be accepted? I do think I could review a phone in 2 minutes, and the reason why I think I could review a phone in 2 minutes is I would not do one video of a phone in 2 minutes. I'd probably do like 5 or 6. So I would maybe do like one overview video and then do like a 2-minute video on specifically just the camera, or maybe something about the speakers, or you know, I know I was on Ben's live stream here in Instagram earlier, so maybe I'd do something on glass backs. I don't know, but either way, I think I'd take the big picture of of a phone and break it down into small bite-sized chunks. So would I accept the challenge? I would love to review phones. Obviously, the phones are a really crowded space in the tech space on YouTube, as well as the fact that I do work in technology, and currently I have a little bit of an NDA where I can't go into certain products. So if you see certain products not on my channel, it's probably because I can't really talk about them based on where I work right now. But overall, down the road, I would definitely love to accept the challenge of trying to do some phone reviews in 2 minutes. So awesome. Thanks, Mr. West. I appreciate the question. Wait, what's cheating? Steve says I'm cheating. I'm not sure what I'm cheating about here in the chat, but you let me know, Steve, because I'm not a cheater. I'm a man of integrity, okay? Next question up from the Twitter Q&A here. I've got Arts asking quality over consistency. I think maybe that's a kind of a generalized YouTube question. You know, I mean, I'm still new. I've got, 30, 35 videos up. Actually just hit the 250 subscriber milestone, which is really huge. So honestly, like, thank you all for everyone that's on the channel in the chat right now. I know a lot of you guys are really responsible to helping me get the word out as far as what we're doing here. And I say we, right? Like we. Benji, I do not work for Apple. I work for another tech company. But thank you. The government, yes. I am actually a spy. But yeah, overall, quality over consistency. I know Viper in the chat. I know Viper was really into daily content and still doing 5 videos a day. I think Viper would definitely say, since he started his channel, I believe back in January, daily videos for him have been really, I think, pivotal to helping him get in front of more people. I think, the more content you put out, the more videos you have out, obviously the more people could actually discover you and find your channel. So Arts, I would say quality over consistency. Consistency is definitely key. However, if you're putting out videos every single day and they're not of quality, then I would say it doesn't really matter. So I think really the right answer here is finding the right balance and what works for you. Me right now, I'm putting out 1 video, trying to maybe put out 2 videos a week. Ideally, I'd like to get to 3, just kind of doing the math on what I think would help me within 1 year hit that 4,000 subscriber mark. I think 3 videos is probably the right time or the right set, but realistically looking at what I want to accomplish as far as view time as well, that's the other rub. Doing quick, really fast 2 to roughly 3-minute videos, trying to hit that view time and bring that up is difficult, which, talking with Roger over at Life of Tech, that's kind of what the live stream is I'm hoping to accomplish with that as well. Like if I do a few live streams here and there, that maybe will bring up my overall view time, especially with all y'all being on the channel right now. So thank you. Awesome. Christopher Lee, what's going on, my man? How are you? Good to see you in the chat. I'm glad you could find time. I do apologize to my West Coast crew out there. I know it's early in the Friday afternoon for you guys, so I really appreciate you jumping by just to say hi. So thank you so much. And then Roger, Life of Tech, man, how are you doing? This live stream happened because of you, Roger, so thank you. I appreciate it. And then Viper giving the shout out for daily uploads. It's legit. So I don't know. That's my best Viper. That's all I got. Viper asking in the chat, am I doing Veda in August? Man, when I did Veda or vlog every day in April, that was really challenging, especially because around that time we had some holidays. The family actually went on vacation for a week down in Florida during that time. And then we also had Mother's Day throughout that as well, I believe. So I had a lot. Actually, no, it was my wife's birthday. Sorry, honey. But we had a lot going on in April, and so I really tried to do a lot of that batch processing where, I wanted to do a lot of videos recorded at once, try to edit them throughout the week and get them up every day. I do think throughout Veda, I think that my quality of my video, I don't know if it suffered noticeably to you guys. I think that I learned a lot from Veda. I think it helped me, especially looking in some of the apps that I was using. Like I use Final Cut when I edit on my Mac. I was able to create a lot of things that helped me be a lot more efficient. So right now, Daniel Schiffer, if you check him out on YouTube, I know I've talked about him in Twitter quite a bit, but he's got a few videos about how to create some adjustment layers. So I can actually take some of my color grading, my my vignettes or whatever I want to have on my video, and I have them saved as a preset automatically, almost like a LUT. so I could just drop it right on top of my timeline, and that saved me a ton of time. So I wouldn't have learned a lot of that stuff if it wasn't for Veda. So am I going to do Veda in August? Probably not, just because I think in general, I really started to bifurcate what I was doing with YouTube. I was still doing some of the tech reviews, but then I was also doing a lot of YouTube, what my thoughts are with YouTube or how I'm going about doing YouTube, which actually did bring me some interesting views. I've got a few amount of subscribers from India that came from those videos when I was really diving into my Rebel SL2 or the 200D for you folks out there on the European side here. But yeah, so am I going to do Veda? I don't think I will, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. So awesome. So going back through the Twitter feed here, Scott has a question as well. What editing video software do I use? And have I always used it? And then how's my Canon? I know we kind of talked about the Canon already, Scott, but I did just touch on it a little bit about using Final Cut Pro. I will say that prior to YouTube even being out, back when the first Apple product that I ever owned was an iPod with FireWire input on it, I was doing some video editing there, and I had Final Cut on a Power Mac G3. It was the cheese grater. I had one of those when I was doing some video editing up in Canada for a local church up there. And honestly, I didn't use Final Cut hardly at all. Like, I used it for some of the bigger products, and I was using strictly iMovie because it was just like a lot of clean edits. It just needed a little bit of audio and some transitions, and it was pretty simple to use. So I really started on iMovie, and then when I started to look at YouTube again, Final Cut seemed to be, based on how Final Cut used to operate, they kind of maybe brought it down to a more consumer level, which I know for a lot of pros maybe kind of made them a little upset. But then I think they've kind of fixed some of those issues with Final Cut 10 or Final Cut X, however you want to say it. But ultimately, I'd have to say, Final Cut, I love it. I know a lot of folks out there are on Adobe, and I see obviously a lot of incredible stuff from them as well. But I'm pretty comfortable using Final Cut right now, and still got a lot to learn with it, but that's the software that I use. So thanks for the question, Scott. Zach Talks Tech. Question about my description box on all my videos. I'm using emojis. It's tried the same, but if he goes back after to edit or add something, it ends up being a bunch of code. It has to be reformatted. Am I using a separate word processor to copy it over for each video? Yeah, Zach, I actually, I'm currently just, when I have notes set up there, I have just a template that I use that's set up in just the Notes app on my iPhone, and I just copy and paste that over. So nothing special, nothing fancy. If I have to make any edits or changes to it, I just do it on that note and then copy it back over. Yeah, I mean, the emojis are pretty cool, but Chris, taking off from the chat, man, thank you for stopping by. I appreciate it. I know it's early on the West Coast for you guys, but yeah, so basically in Notes, I just have kind of all that pre-formatted out as far as the emojis and the links and all that, and then I just copy and paste that over after I've added like a brief description of what my video is about right there. So hope that helps. All right, and then Ben is a lover of tech. There is an Adobe crew over there. I'd love to dip my toe in Adobe. Like, I'd love to see what it's like. I know a lot of people really love the Adobe software. I think it does some really amazing stuff. So I'd love to check it out sometime for sure. So, and then Zach's saying he's not sure if in Google Keep. I don't know if anybody on the chat uses Google Keep. If you do, let me know if you can use emojis here. I'm sure Zach would like to check that out in the chat. So thanks. Aaron Wilhelm, what company / product do I really want to work with and review but haven't yet? Again, guys, I haven't really pre-read many of these questions, so that's a really good question. I'm just gonna go. Let's do Tesla. Why not, right? Like, I would love to be able to work with and review a Tesla. I know it's maybe a cop-out question, but, I was reading a little bit about some of the air filtration today. I think maybe Josh from Gross Technology maybe shared this link on Twitter, or maybe I just saw it somewhere on Facebook or something like that. But I saw where the air filtration systems inside of some of the Tesla models is so good, like hospital-grade air filtration, that you could actually potentially be okay if there was some sort of chemical attack, because the air filtration penetration inside the Tesla is that good. Obviously, that's a company that's doing some really incredible stuff right now in terms of kind of turning the auto industry up on its end here. I am from the Detroit area, but I'm not a native Michigander. I'm originally from Indiana, so I'm not super biased towards any of the big three. But I really think, I think Tesla's onto something, and I'd really like to try out a few of their vehicles. So thanks for the question, Aaron. And Benji wants a Roadster. Yeah, me too. Awesome. Viper asks, how did I come up with a 2-minute concept? So good question. Actually, I think there's a few things involved here. Number one was I was writing some common emails for the company that I work for, just kind of general things. And realistically, email is not a really great way to communicate. So I tried to come up with a way that I could almost market the emails that, hey, like if you open this email, it's not going to take you a lot of time. So I kind of branded this 2-minute read inside these emails that I was sending internally. And I got a lot of pretty good response from that. So I was using some software on my iPad called Ulysses, which is, if you haven't checked it out, it's a pretty cool writing app. It's good for like notes or long form. And one of the things I love about Ulysses is the fact that at the bottom, there's not only just a character count or a word count, but there's also a read or a read aloud count. You can kind of choose what you want to see there as far as how long it would take someone to read it internally or how long it would take you to read it out loud. So looking at that, I kind of knew that I could write a lot of my scripts, which I don't really script as much anymore. I use kind of main bullet points and script out certain parts of my videos. But I knew that with that read aloud, I could probably hit like a 2-minute window. So why turn that into video as far as 2-minute videos goes? That was really just based on my user behavior on on YouTube. If I wanted to find something out, if I wanted to learn something, I know Viper, you've talked about this a lot on your channel, that YouTube is the second largest search engine in the world. It's like, hey, if I ever want to learn how to do anything, I'm gonna go on YouTube and just search like, how do I XYZ? And then when the search results come up, pretty much whatever's in the first 10 or 15 videos that had a good thumbnail that wasn't 5 or 10 minutes long, I'd probably click on that first. So for me, I wanted to get the information that I was looking for really fast, really quick. And usually I found that anything that was around 2 to 3 minutes was kind of where I was at. So kind of merged the two to come up with a 2-minute tech concept. And I think, I think it works. I think I can hit most of what I want to hit in a video in 2 minutes. The only thing I don't know is I don't think the algorithm loves my watch time being around 1 minute and 37 seconds. But man, I wish they would just look at percentage. Like as a percentage, that's a lot of my video getting watched. So, but thank you for the question, Viper. Cool. And then Zach Talks Tech. Why am I struggling with that one? Zach, looks like you were testing Google Keep Notes with the emoji, and it's working out for you. So I'm glad that that's working, man. I'm glad that we could get that here. So awesome. Steve, thank you for coming by, man. Enjoy dinner with your family. Have a good night. Going back to the 2-minute tech here on Twitter. JD from JD Tech TV. JD's kind of almost a godfather to the tech squad here. I know he's definitely been involved, was really part of an awesome collaboration with JD Viper over at Jeff with LFA Reviews. Zach was on there as well. So really, really cool collab that we were able to do. And I know, obviously, Roger, Roger, when I was trying to tag you on Twitter, I went through to hit the @ symbol, and I was like, is it Life of, what's the, I was like, I started to type at Lord Crispy, and then I was like, oh yeah, Life of Tech. So just to throw that out there. But JD asking, going for the big question here, what's my ultimate goal for being on YouTube? Do I feel like there's an end goal, or more importantly, do I even want there to be one? So that's a great question, JD. I think, anyone that's on YouTube, I think in the back of your mind, you're definitely thinking, oh man, like that would be amazing to be able to do this full time. I definitely love the work that I do. So it's not like it was something where I wanted to start doing YouTube as an exit strategy. I know, Viper, you've talked about that a little bit. But ultimately, I think the goal here was realistically, when I used to work at a different job, my commute one way to and from work was 90 minutes there and 90 minutes back. And one day I was listening to a podcast where they talked about a story about a fisherman and how that fisherman, was basically going through and fishing every day and going home and, taking a nap and spending time with his family. And his whole life was fishing and hanging out. And granted, he didn't make a lot of money doing that, but, he was living a pretty good life. And then, an American tycoon came through and saw that he had a pretty good thing going and tried to get him to industrialize his workflow and have him make more money to eventually start a corporation and move to the States and on and on and on until eventually he'd have enough money to retire. And then when he asked him what he wanted to do if he retired, he said he would want to come back to the village and fish and take a nap and spend time with his family. So why not do that now? So that podcast really kind of impacted me a lot when I was driving. So I was thinking about, and I kind of nerd out. I go a little bit into math and spreadsheets. And so as I was driving one day, I started to think about like how much time do I spend at work and away from my family. So including my commute, including the time that I'm at work, maybe work that I'm doing at home, like how much of my life am I actually spending doing that versus doing the things that I really would love to do. And I kind of figured out it ended up being about 34% of my life was doing things with my family and the things that I wanted to do. And so that kind of struck me that I really wanted to increase the percentage. I wanted to go from 34 to get to as close to 50 as I could. And as I started to think about that led me to, a little bit of a job change. So my commute is much better now. So that's brought that a little closer to that balance. But ultimately, YouTube for me is part of that, where it's like, hey, if I start this now in 5 years, would there be a point to where this could be something that would be able to sustain me full time, especially with the work that I'm doing now? Would I be able to pay off some of the debts or bills that I have and then make a transition? So JD, I guess to answer your question here, my ultimate goal for being on YouTube, number one, was thinking about like, what do I really want to do? And ultimately that's be with my family, and YouTube could be a vehicle for that. So that was kind of the nebulous to starting that out. And then once I got started, realistically, I kind of don't care. I really love doing this. Like there's so many itches that YouTube scratches. And I know you all can understand this that are out there creating right now. When you're thinking about, man, I'm gonna start and buy a camera and research and the technology and the fun behind picking a camera and using that, and then writing scripts and creating scripts, and then all of the stuff in terms of the YouTube algorithm and worrying about your marketing. And there's so much work that goes into YouTube. It really is a full-time job in and of itself. And all of that kind of stretches an entrepreneurial kind of bug inside of me. So would I, like, if I stayed at 250 subscribers, would I keep going? I think I would, because I just genuinely love doing these videos. And, I'm glad that you all are part of that journey. So thank you, JD, and thank you guys again for everything that you've done for me so far. So thanks. Cool. Few questions. Sorry, that was a long-winded answer, JD. Yeah, El Jefe, Jeff, I know 90-minute commute, it's rough, man, I'm telling you. So speaking of Jeff El Jefe Reviews, check his channel out if you haven't already, Jeff always asks the best questions in these Ask hashtag questions. So Jeff would like to know, would I rather know all the mysteries of the universe or know every outcome of every choice that you make? Boy, again, not really coaching these questions. I would rather know all the mysteries of the universe versus know the outcome. I'm the type of person where whatever information I have in front of me at that point in time to make a decision, I go with it. And if it ends up being the wrong decision, I don't really care, because at that point in time, with all of the information that I had present, I feel like I made the best decision that I could. So knowing the outcome ahead of time, I don't think I'd really care. I think if I knew all the mysteries of the universe, I would have enough understanding of almost like Doctor Strange. Like I could kind of know a little bit of how everything is going to work, just because of how much history has taught us before, to be able to make a really informed decision and feel pretty good about that. So I would rather know all the mysteries of the universe. I think I could go far with that. Thank you for the question. Okay. Matesh asks, something. It says, I forgot to ask 2-minute tech. So Mitesh, I'm sorry, I didn't see your question there. I'll try and see if I can search it up. I've got a few other questions here, but if anyone sees that, if you could drop it in the chat, that would be helpful. But otherwise, I'll try and go back and see if I can find that question, Mitesh. Christopher Lee, I know he dipped out. Chris, I think, asks a hard question. If I had to be stranded on a deserted island with one female tech YouTuber, who would I pick and why? Benji's asking how long am I streaming for. Benji, I'm going to go right up until about 7. I'm stalling for time for Chris's question as well. Thanks, Benji. I'm going to go right up until about 7 o'clock. And then Friday Night Viper comes on at 7:30 Eastern. So I'm going to kind of lead into him a little bit and give everybody some time to, take a break, grab a drink, chill, and then hop on Viper's Friday night live stream. But I'm going to go, Chris, for the female tech YouTuber I would pick. I'm going to go with Simone Gertz. Reason being, if I'm stuck on a desert island, I probably want to get off that desert island. And I feel like even though a lot of her robots are comically inefficient, I feel like there's enough knowledge and ingenuity there that between the two of us, we could probably come up with some really good engineering solutions around how we're going to eat, how we're going to drink, what our living situation would look like. Like, I feel like we could survive very well and then start to kind of work on building a boat or raft to get off. Although, if anyone saw like maybe the soup video where she's got the robot feeding her soup and it's just splattering soup all over herself, maybe we wouldn't survive the travel with the boat. But ultimately, I think she would be the best person to make it work with. So also, if you guys haven't seen, Simone is currently going through some health issues. She actually just posted a new video where she's heading into her brain surgery. I know it was kind of all over the place on YouTube and Twitter. Casey Neistat put out some nice stuff about it as well. So definitely send her some love if you haven't already. Simone, we're thinking about you. Last question here. 2 questions left from the Twitter Ask 2-Minute Tech. Zach from Zach Talk Tech asks 2 questions. Number 1, iOS or Android, my preference and why. And then number 2, my favorite piece of tech ever. I am an iOS user. The reason why I'm an iOS user, it was really the first smartphone that I ever really had. So I remember I had an iPod Classic and I had a Razr, and I had both of those devices in my pocket. And I remember seeing when the iPhone came out, I couldn't really understand why anyone would want that. I was like, I already have a smartphone and I've already got all these songs in my pocket. I don't really understand why anyone would want to have an iPhone. And then when the iPhone 3GS came out and, the App Store hit, it really became evident that there was something really, really snappy happening over there at Apple. So that was really my first phone, was the iPhone 3GS and then the 4, which I really liked the design of the 4. So I think that was really kind of what started me into it. And then I was really kind of a casual iPhone user. At the time, I was working in the music industry, so I wasn't really that into tech like I am today. But over time, iOS has been good. I haven't really seen any compelling reason that would draw me into the Android world. I know this is a definite hot topic in the tech community. I know a lot of people are very passionate about this. I think for folks that use Android, I think they have really good reasons. I think for the folks that are currently, obviously watching our types of content, if you're in Android and you're in that ecosystem, I think you love it. And I think you may have had an experience with iOS and switched over to Android and you really love what you're having over there. I will say that I think the Google phones that they've got coming out with the Pixel 2 and the rumored Pixel 3, I think there's some really interesting stuff there happening with those phones. And I know after this live stream, I know Viper's live stream, he's going to touch on some of those Google Pixel 3 rumors, so definitely check that out. But ultimately, I love my iOS, and I haven't seen much of a reason to kind of stray from that. My favorite piece of tech, Zach, ever. Oh, man. I'm going to go with the first piece of tech that really 100% just blew my mind. And that was, growing up, my dad was a baseball coach. And so there was always older kids around when I was growing up. So when I was, 2, 3, 4, 5, all the way up, there was always 13, 14, 15-year-olds that my dad was coaching baseball with. So I was always going over to, their houses for baseball parties and that sort of thing. And I remember going to one of those parties when I was probably maybe 4 or 5, and I saw some kids playing Excite Bike on the Nintendo, like the NES, the original system. And at the time, I'd had an Atari. I actually had an Intellivision way back when, and a Commodore 64 as well. So there's always kind of been something around. But man, when I saw that Nintendo and that controller and the games and the graphics, like it really, really blew my mind. I immediately was begging mom and dad to get me one. I ended up having a Nintendo with probably about 60 games. I was a Nintendo junkie growing up, so that was really the first piece of tech that really kind of blew my mind. Aside from that, my dad was really into music as well as gadgets as well. So he was, I think we bought one of the first CD players that ever came to Indiana. Like we had to drive an hour and a half down to Indianapolis just to buy it because no stores near us had a CD player. And then we also had one of the really, really big, huge satellite dishes in our backyard that you had to actually like crank by hand to dial in different channels. So I think, tech has kind of always been in my life and in my periphery. But the NES really was the thing that really kind of really opened my eyes to what was possible out there and what you could do and what was really fun. So yeah, Zach, thanks for the question. I think I think that would be it. So yeah, going through the chat here. I do use Tweetbot. If I had a notification, it would come from my computer. I'm sorry. I'll have to look at background audio noise. But yes, I do use Tweetbot. I have tried switching to Twitter, Benji, the stock Twitter app. I think that's probably why I haven't been quite as active on Twitter lately. I'm kind of a Twitter completionist, so I hate missing tweets. And with the actual stock Twitter app, it's just all over the place. So I know it's trying to algorithmically feed me things that it thinks that I want to see. But realistically, I want to see everything. Dan Gage in the house. How are you doing, Dan? Thanks for joining, man. I appreciate you being on. But yeah, so I use Tweetbot because I really like the algorithm, removing the algorithm. I like seeing everything in chronological order. I also like and you may be able to do this in the stock Twitter app, but I've kept it separate in case I don't want to mix those two up. But I do use Tweetbot because I like the dark mode as well. And I'm just used to it. I think when you get started on something and you get used to it, it's kind of hard to move away sometimes. But I do like Tweetbot, although some of the features of Twitter, since Twitter is limited what third-party clients can do, has left me looking at Twitter a little bit more closely. And so far, I think it's more of a coin toss. I think I'm using Tweetbot for certain things and Twitter for others. So yeah, that's where I land on the Twitter controversy right now. Awesome. Last question of the day from the feed here. From Twitter. Again, guys, thank you so much for putting in all those questions early, and then thank you guys for the questions in the chat. If you guys have any other questions after I read this one, definitely drop them in the chat, and I'll do my best to answer. Last question coming from Benji. Where did I come up with the name 2 Minute Tech? Aside from some of the stuff that I talked about earlier from Viper's question of the 2-minute read, I'm a big fan of alliteration, so I like it when things have multiple letters like 2 Minute Tech. The T and the T just sound good to me. So I've actually considered some other 2-minute spinoffs as well, like 2 Minute Talk or 2 Minute. I'm drawing a blank. 2 Minute. I've got a list. I've got a note with all my 2-minute T words, but it just seemed to flow really well. So again, I think if I was ever going to start a YouTube channel, I know people do blogging or vlogging and they share like, hey, this is my daily life. I think like a lot of us, it's like, well, I don't know if my daily life is interesting enough to really vlog about. It would just be me kind of yelling at the kids most of the day. But I think technology is my passion. That's the thing that really, more than anything else, if I was ever going to do anything creative, it would revolve around technology. So 2 Minute Tech, I liked the ring. I like the fact that, I do talk kind of fast, as evidenced by the fact that I planned on this live stream being about an hour, and at 6:40, I'm already through all my questions. But yeah, 2 Minute Tech just seemed to be the right fit. So overall, like that's why I did 2 Minute Tech. So thank you for your question, Benji. Trying to go back and scroll through the question from Matesh, because I know he did ask one. And again, using the stock Twitter app, I'm not sure if I can find it. I don't know if anybody found Matesh's question either. But yeah, if anybody else has any questions in the meantime while I'm trying to look this up, drop them in the chat and I'll get to those as well. Yeah, Matesh, I apologize, man. It looks like I can't find that on the fly here. So ultimately, I say thanks for the question, and I'm sorry I couldn't answer it. But again, guys, thanks for everybody for jumping on the live stream. Thanks for everyone for submitting your questions. Again, there's a ton of YouTubers, a ton of y'all that answered or asked me questions on here. If for some reason you're catching this live stream or you're catching it after the fact, pretty much everyone that I listed on here has a YouTube channel. I'll throw all of those channels in the link down below so that you can check out their channels and subscribe. Guys, we've got an amazing community. I really, really appreciate what we have going on right now. The fact that we're always so willing to help each other out. Again, Ben, thank you so much for setting this up with me, man. Getting my SL2 to work with OBS, if I hadn't been for you pointing me in the right direction, I would be super duper frustrated right now instead of just mildly sweating in my non-air conditioned basement. But ultimately, guys, thanks so much for being a part of the channel, a part of the live stream, and a part of my life. Really love you guys, and yeah, we'll see. I think the live stream, I feel pretty good about it. Let me know what your feedback is. I'd love to know what you guys thought, and maybe we'll make this a more regular occasion. But ultimately, guys, thanks so much for joining. We got Viper coming up at 6:30 Eastern. He's going to cover Google Pixel 3, a few other things as well. So definitely, guys, make sure to check out Viper's live stream coming up Friday Night Vipe. Thanks, guys, so much for watching, and have an awesome evening. Thanks, guys.